Today, we're going to look at really the overall process of listings. We're going to look at a couple of big components. If you've never done a listing, hopefully you're going to take away a process that you can put in place when this class is over, right? So go ahead and schedule a seller meeting for this afternoon, because hopefully you'll be able to transition right into that. If you're an experienced listing agent, hopefully we're going to review some numbers, some information about what sellers are really looking for. And so hopefully that will help refine your process and really give you some deep insight there. So I tried to make this where if you've never done a listing or you're very experienced or anywhere in between, that hopefully you'll be able to take some good stuff from this. We'll review some tools, some other platforms, some third-party systems too, that I think are of benefit for really any agent that's doing the listing for clients. So the first thing we want to answer in this class is this question: do you want this in your real estate business? The first thing, more time. Well, I'm sure we all would say yes to that, right? Time is very precious and very limited. And then the next thing is more money. Probably all of us would say yes to both of those. And so being a listing agent, why does that help you get more of these things? Well, more time, right? You can work with more sellers than buyers at the same time. But if you had 5 buyers and 5 sellers going on at the same time, right, one or the other, you can definitely work with the sellers easier than 5 buyers. 5 buyers that want to go see 3 homes this weekend, it's going to be very difficult for you to schedule that, right? There's just not enough time to be able to do that. So being able to create more time for you in your business, and then more money. You control the inventory. You're the one filling out the listing agreement, which controls, really everything from that point on in the process. So you controlling those things, that's what being a listing agent really gets you when you boil it down to 2 different things: time and money, which are things that I think everyone is looking for more of. So the 2 P's of listing a home. And please let me know if you think this is the right way. Putting a sign in the ground and praying, right? That's that's what a lot of clients, I think we do, and maybe a lot of agents, that's their system currently. If it is your system currently, hopefully we're going to show you some things today that are going to make your system, a little bit more involved than just these 2 things. So we want to put a big red X through that. We're not just going to look at putting a sign in the ground and praying. That's not going to be our 2 P's for listing and for success. Our 2 P's will be people and process. So we're going to try to break that down as simple as possible and really take this listing process so that you can remember it, you can carry it on with you, and it's something that you can implement. The first part, the people. Well, we all know that there are a lot of people involved in a real estate transaction, even on the buy side, right? But if you're on the listing side, you've got the seller, the buyer's agent, buyer's broker, inspector, a lender, a closing attorney, families and friends of the client, probably more than this, in some certain transactions. So you have a lot going on. You have a lot of people to manage. You have a lot of emotions to manage, a lot of things to kind of keep control of. And so one thing you have to do is really focus, right? Systems help us do that. Processes help us do that. And then knowing those things help us do that. So I think the one in the middle there with his hand on his head, I think that was the inspector. He's like, that's not a good home. We need to move to the next one. But the point of this picture is just to show there are a lot of people involved. And the other thing to think about with this is, if you're the listing agent, of course, your client is the seller, but think about how many agents maybe aren't in the business, 2, 3, 4 years later on, when that buyer who just bought that home is looking to sell. So you're also, doing this process not only for your seller, but what we're going to talk about today is we want to have referrals throughout our real estate career, and not just for this one transaction and just solely focused on that. So there are other players, in the part of this process, and we want to be focused on all of those to a certain extent. All right, we're going to look at some stats. So take another sip of coffee just so you can be fired up for these. But we're going to look at some NAR stats. This is from a 2021 NAR home buyer and seller trends and a report, a study that they did. So some really some may be eye-opening. Some may be like, okay, that solidifies what I thought. But the method used to sell a home. Does anyone want to guess, out of 100%, how many sellers used an agent or broker to sell their home? Now, this is a nationwide, NAR study. Can we get one person to volunteer? just throw out a percentage that used an agent or a broker versus a for sale by owner versus selling on their own versus selling to an iBuyer.
86%.
90%.
I heard 90, I heard 86. Somebody has seen my slides before, and I'm not happy about it. 89%. Grant, you were right on it, and someone else jumped in there too with 90, right there at 86 or 90. So 89%, right? So 9 out of 10 used an agent to sell their home. If you look down here, three lines from the bottom, sold a home to an iBuying company, 1%. So as much as as much information as we heard about Zillow buying homes, and we hear about some of these other ones, Open Door and things like that, truly from this report anyway, only 1%, and then an 8% for sale by owner, which I thought was a little high. I didn't expect it to be that high. Now again, it is a national study that they did, but still 9 out of 10, right? So you, the agent, using being the person who sells their home. So the method used to find this real estate agent. Does anyone want to take a guess as the number percent that was referred? So you, the agent, was referred to the seller. How many times percent out of 100 were you, the agent, referred to that seller as the method of them finding an agent? Keep in mind, there's a lot going on there, right? Zillow, direct mail, all of the sources, right? But what percent referred by a friend? So I see in the chat box, 99%, 70%. What's it? One more guess, Rena. Did you have something?
5. I was thinking way low.
Way low, like what?
Like 5.
5. Okay, we've got a big scale there. So referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative, actually 41%. So kind of in the middle of where our guesses came in. Used the agent previously, so that was kind of out of that top number, but 26% there. So 67% is either referred by a friend, a neighbor, a relative, or used previously to help buy or sell a home, right? That's a big chunk, 67%, almost 7 out of 10 times. That's where the seller found the agent. So, as you see on the screen there, do not be a secret agent. That's what this slide tells me, right? Be involved with your sphere. Let your database know if you're a new agent that you're a new agent. If you've moved areas, that you've moved areas. If you're an experienced agent, I'm still in real estate. I'm still over here, slaying it in real estate. So making sure you're keeping in touch with people, and especially that 26%. That's another quarter of the whole group there that used previously. I don't have this number here, and I wish I did because it just popped in my head. There is a number from NAR that says the number of clients who forget the name of their agent, when they go to sell, right? So they help them buy that home, and then they forgot their name by the time they go to sell. So that's just another reason to stay in touch with people. And so we're going to go through a couple of things later on about, staying in touch with your people. So I won't continue to make you guess on this one, but I do want to reveal it. Most important factor in choosing a real estate agent to sell a home: by level of service provided from the agent. So take a look at this. Reputation of the agent, 31%. The agent is honest and trustworthy, 26. The knowledge of the neighborhood, 12. So 38%, and really you could add the 15 if you wanted to, but 38% of this requires no experience. So almost 4 out of 10 times the seller chose an agent, and it doesn't require experience. You can know the neighborhood, you can preview properties, you can drive through there, you can research it, do all of those things, and you can be honest and trustworthy without having experience in real estate. And so that's something for the agent who maybe is newer, or just newer to the area, right? And then if you add in the reputation, that's almost 7 out of 10. So adding in the reputation, you have some deals, you have some closings, you just have a good presence in the neighborhood or the community. You're almost 7 out of 10, times 70% likely to be that person, right? To be the person that's going to sell that property. And I promise these are going to get better and better and less as we go through the presentation. But I wanted to hit it early so we could just establish the framework for really what we're talking about. So number of agents contacted before selecting an agent to assist. I do want to hear some guesses here. So the number of agents that the seller contacted before selecting the agent that they ultimately selected? How many agents do you think the sellers contacted and said, hey, come out, give me a price on what you think my property is worth, give me a CMA, give me a presentation? So I see one, I see zero, probably meaning like they already know that one. Two, all right, I want to get a couple more guesses in. 5, 2, 1. Okay, well, let's take a look. So 77% 1, 13% 2. So 90%, far and away, right? The highest on this entire chart here. They contacted one agent for the most part, or two max. So that means we want to be the one, but if you can't be the one, at least be the two, right? So if they say, I have an agent, I've got an agent, I'm good, we're going to talk about what you can say to answer that question so you can be that number two. But the goal obviously would be to number one, right? That's 77% of the time. They're contacting one agent, which really goes back to what we looked at on the other slide of the big number of people who get referred, right? You want to be the referred. So, in a world of leads that are all over the place, every commercial or every advertisement or every email that you get as an agent that says, hey, here's a great lead source, send me $1 million and I'll give you $2 million in leads, all of those things that are coming for your attention. Really what we want to focus on are the highest return on investments for you, the agent, which are really, right here in your database. And we're seeing that right with the success of what this report says. Okay. What sellers want most from a real estate agent? Oh, did I delete that? Yeah. Show me the money, right? That's what we think, right? Show me the money. I want the highest amount of money. I don't care about everything else. And we hear that, right? But a lot of times I think when we sit down with sellers, maybe that's not quite exactly the way we need to think about it, right? It's a good way to visualize it and think about it. And probably that's their initial call to you is, oh yeah, I want the agent to sell my home that can get me the most money. But really, in this market, is it the most money or the best terms, right? There's so many terms that can go along with a contract, right? We've got appraisal contingencies, finance contingencies, all cash versus conventional versus all these other types of financing. Are they going to get an inspection? What's the due diligence? All these things that you have to navigate. So really, let's take a look at what the answers are from this NAR study. Is 22% help sell the home within a specific time frame. So actually the highest amount there. Price it competitively. So competitively, there's a big word, right? It doesn't say sell it for the absolute most amount of money that's ever sold, in this county. It's 21% competitively, and then the number 17% on marketing it potential buyers. So this is what the sellers are saying that they want here. Help them, guide them through there. And the question that I have again is experience needed for this? And really, it's not, right? As long as you can get some marketing to help number three there, you can do the other two without experience. So if you are experienced, great. You've already got a heads up. If you're not experienced, don't be nervous about it, because sellers are telling us in these studies, there's nothing in here that says I'm only going with the person who's worked in the business for 25 years, right? Everything is trust, and honesty and trustworthy. Being able to sell in a specific time, being able to market, being able to price it competitively, which we all can do that right now as a real estate agent with the tools we have. So we're going to skip through some stats. We're kind of finished with that portion of it. But before we get into the process, we want to finish up the people side. And part of that people side is the mindset. And the first thing we're going to look at is the short-term versus long-term mindset of an agent. The short-term would be, I'm in this transaction, I'm going to put the sign in the ground and I'm going to pray, right? Which we kind of looked at how that's gone out the window if you want referrals, if you want to stay in this business for a long time, and if you really want to establish yourself as a real estate player. And that doesn't mean you doing the deals. It can mean you referring the deals, right? So staying in there, being involved is a big thing for a buyer or a listing agent, but really for a listing agent, right? In what we're talking about today, I can't do it versus how can I do it, right? The things you focus on expand. If you think I can't do that, there's no way I can go compete against this 10-year veteran agent or 25-year or this person who dominates this neighborhood. That's a I can't do it mindset, and we want to focus on how can I do it. All right, I need to be prepared. I need to bring the best comps in. I need to know the neighborhood. I need to drive the neighborhood. I need to know all of these things, right? That's how you can do it. So looking at it from the positive side. Focusing on all parties, like we talked about earlier, not just focusing on your client, the seller, because that buyer's watching, how you're interacting with that client. They're watching how their agent is interacting with them. And, maybe they're making a future decision for who's going to sell their property when they end up selling. And abundance versus scarcity, something that something that we want to focus on. Yes, we all know inventory's tight, but the amount of agents that out there in the marketplace is not a finite number, right? Your people know people, those people know people, and so that expands. And we'll look at how to contact them and some things to say to hopefully grow your referral business. But looking at it from, I lost that listing, and that's it. I can't be a listing agent. That's not a great way to do it. We want to think about, wow, look at all the other homes that are available. How do I get to them? How do I get to those sellers? How do I make that happen? Busy versus productive. We can be very, very busy. And at the end of the day, we can look back and say, what did I accomplish, right? And so versus being productive of having a scripted out schedule where I'm making my calls in the morning, I'm doing CMAs, I'm going on appointments, looking at it more from really a business, right? You're running a business, it's your business, and you want to be as productive as possible. And that goes back to that first slide where we looked at more time and more money. You can't have more time if you're just being busy and not productive, right? And so we want to make sure we incorporate just that mindset, right? All of these things into it, along with opportunities can multiply. And so we talked about the referral, we talked about how sellers, and if they're excited with what you've done, will refer you. And we'll look at that last stat before we move on to the next section right here. How many times a seller recommends a typical agent? Look at that one, 4 or more times, 27%. That's huge. That's huge. 4 or more times. So you do a very good job for that seller. You help them with the price, pricing their home and competitively marketing their home, and you help them through that process. And 4 or more times is that seller likely to recommend that agent. That's huge, right? Definitely heart eyes on that one. 4 or more times. So where do we find sellers? What are some good places that you find sellers, or that you are looking for sellers? What are some things that you're doing in your business, or that you think is a good place to find sellers? Can I hear some suggestions?
Expired and FSBOs.
Yeah, expires is what I was about to say too.
Perfect.
Recent expires, actually.
Okay.
Neighbors.
Okay.
Friends, relatives, coworkers.
Perfect. Anybody else?
Your marketing.
So all of those things, yes, right? So essentially, there's no wrong answer, right? they're all right answers. They're all people. Those are all people that you can contact, all people that probably already have their phone number, their email, some form of communication, maybe your friends on social media. And so, events, hobbies, right? Previous careers, maybe you're new in real estate, or maybe you had a previous career doing something else. Think about, reaching out to those people. And I think one hurdle that I hear agents say is, it's been 5 years, it's been 10 years, it's been 15 years or whatever, right? Since I've contacted that person, since I've worked at that job, since I've done those things. And really, it's like planting a tree, right? There's no better time than now. You can't go back. The best time to do it is now. Hey, I know it's been a while. I just want to reach out and let you know I'm a real estate agent. Go through that information, right? With any of these people, and just have a conversation with them. The amount of contacts you have, they may not be looking to do anything, but they may have other people that they say, oh yeah, I remember working with Jeff. Now he's a real estate agent. Let me send you his information. And so really the whole goal of all of that, and the focus of that is the radio station WIFM, what's in it for me. That's what they're looking for. And so that's what this next section we're going to look at. When you do contact these people, when you are able to have a conversation with them, some things that you can say to that person. The first one is, what can I do for you or how can I help you, right? So it's not about me, the real estate agent. It's not about what you can do for me. Hey, I know we haven't spoken 5 years, but can I help you buy or sell a property? This is one of those things that you're working into that conversation of, well, what can I do for you? I know you're still at, this position. I know you're an independent contractor. I know you're an entrepreneur and you have a business downtown. What can I do to help your business, right? And a lot of times it's, well, I need more clients, right? I mean, I think a lot of people in business would say that. And so, well, how can you help them, right? If you're a real estate agent, you probably come in contact with a lot of people and let them know that, hey, I'm actually in real estate now. I come in contact with a lot of people, and I'd love to be able to refer them to your business to be able to help you. And their initial reaction is probably going to be something along the lines of, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. I'd love to be able to refer people to you back, the reciprocity thing there. And so you're taking a genuine interest in them. You're genuinely helping them, try to help their business. And then when they tell you a little bit, of that information, just an expansion, right? Tell me a little more about that. I'd love to know a little more about that. And just having that general free flowing conversation with them, so that you can really just find out more. Again, that WIFM, what's in it for them, and you helping them. When they see you as the networker and the person that's helping connect people, they're going to be excited to be able to turn that around and help you. What is important to you about that? That's another, powerful question. Not only for the initial conversation, but later on when we talk about the listing presentation, because you're trying to find out, why is it important? What is important about it? Why is it important to them? Not just, hey, this is important, but why and what about that is important, right? You're trying to find that need, that initial root reason for them telling you that they need a fenced-in backyard, or that they need more business, or whatever it is that you're chatting about with them. You want to find out a little bit more. And the one thing that overarches all of this is that we know most people love to tell their story, right? And love to be asked about their story. Hey, how did you get here? Or how do you do this? Or, you've been successful, or you've been at this company a long time, or whatever it is, whatever you're chatting with them about. They like to talk about that for the most part. So, just to expand on that and genuinely have an interest in them. Kind of switching more to real estate, the questions as you go through: did you see your neighbor's home just sold? And so you're talking to someone either in the neighborhood, someone that in the area, something like that. Very casual conversation. Did you see your neighbor's home just sold? It's a great conversation starter. They're either going to say, yes, I followed it every day on Zillow, Realtor, Trulia, your website, wherever, and waited till it closed to see the price. Or they're going to say, yeah, I saw the sign in the ground and 30 days later it was gone. What did it sell for? So either way, it's a conversation, right? Either way, there's information you can provide to them. Hopefully you've done your research at least a little bit and found out what it was sold for, how many days it was on the market. So you have that answer. But that's something that you can always, chat with them about. And then more real estate, right? Have you ever thought about selling? Right? That's just a general question. You probably don't want to lead with that. It's going to be something that you work into the conversation. But have you ever thought about selling? And they're either going to say, yeah, in a couple of years when the kids are graduated, or, no, this is our forever home. We're going to be here for, 40 years or whatever. Again, conversation starter. You're learning about them. And also you're forming your database, right? You're putting notes in your database. Jim and Stacy are never going to move, or told me that anyway, right? Because we know that's probably not the case, or they're going to move in 2 years or less. And so I need to be in constant contact with them throughout, and educate them and provide some information for them. And if they say, yeah, I've thought about it, and is there a price at which you would sell, right? So just so many different ways you can go with this conversation. These are just some ideas and things that you can talk to people about, and kind of gauge their interest in selling. We all know there are people who maybe have thought about selling that would tell you, nope, never thought about selling. There's no price I would ever sell. And maybe in the back of their mind, like, wow, I can see what my home would go for. So that's the reason to stay in touch with them, right? And not just write them off like, oh, they're never going to sell. Because those are the ones that you see 6 months or a year later, and you see it in your neighborhood or on the internet that says it sold, and you look it up and it wasn't you that helped sell them. So sell that property for them. So we definitely want to stay in touch. Some discussion tips. Has anyone ever heard of the acronym FROG, FROG, or FORD, FORD, when it comes to ideas and things like that to talk to clients about. Frog, that one is family, recreation, occupation, and goals. And then Ford is family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And so either one, right? It's just an acronym for when you're in a situation where maybe you don't have your computer, your notes in front of you, but you run across someone who you're like, wow, this could, potentially be a client, or I can help them, or, whatever similar situation. It's just a way to keep it organized, right? Tell me a little bit about your family. What do you like to do for fun? Where do you work? What do you do for a living? And then your goals, right? Like, oh, what do you want to do with that? Or are you looking to retire? Do you want to sell? Do you want to move to the beach? You want to go back and get your master's degree? All of those things, right, can fall in those categories. But it's an easy way for you to, just remember it, right? And think about how do I help this person, and how can I get more information, right? More information you have about them, the more you're going to be able to help that person when it comes to selling or helping them buy, either way. But, this class is more focused on the sell part. Some other discussion tips is knowing their DISC profile. Has anyone in here taken a DISC assessment, like one of the online versions or one of the bigger ones? I saw a couple hands go up. You probably learned a lot about yourself. I know I did when I took mine. I was like, whoa, this is weird to read about yourself, in words that maybe you wouldn't have described yourself as, right? But it really does give good insight, and I highly recommend that you do it yourself. Go and I'll show you where to find it for free to take this DISC profile test. But take it if you haven't, and just answer the questions, read the report about you. It's pretty detailed, multiple pages about your personality. And then if you don't know this part, each of the letters in DISC stands for a type of personality. So you have a scale, high and a low, and the D is like a high D, a low D, a high I, low I, and then on down the road. And it's just the kind of a great way for you to know those generalizations of that person, because when you meet someone and these, then you can kind of put them in a little bit of that category and say, I know how this person likes to handle themselves. I know that they, like a high D, they need information, general, high level information very quickly. If you tell them all the details that we looked at in that stats, and probably some of you were looking at that and saying like, I don't want to know all these stats, you might be a high D, because you just want to know the information. You want to move on to the next topic, right? So knowing that about yourself, knowing that about, the categories that they offer there and the types of personalities that are involved in those 4 letters will help you when you're doing your listing presentation, when you're doing your initial conversation, because you may say, oh, that person was a jerk when I told them all the details about the community and all this other stuff. They checked out, they said they didn't have time, and they left. And it could be, it could be that they were a jerk, but it also could be they were high D. They just wanted the high level information, get me the information and let it go on. Or they could be more analytical, like in the S&C profiles, where they need that information. And if you don't give them enough information, they may not work with you because you didn't give them enough details. So knowing that helps out, especially in a situation where you're on a listing presentation with 2 people, maybe a husband and wife or something like that, and you're sitting down with 2 totally opposite personalities, maybe a D and a C profile. You're going to have to give one all of the details and one all of the high level, and you may have one that checks out while you're talking to the other person. So, knowing that information, I think only helps you and helps you refine your process and just working with people in general. For the people that already know this information, you're probably like, yep, I use it all the time. So that's what that part means. Remembering this part, the person who talks the most dominates the conversation, but the person who asks the most questions controls it. That's not a quote from me, and I apologize, I didn't cite it. I thought I did. But really what that tells you is the questions that we talked about earlier, right? Tell me a little bit more about that. Why is that important to you? All of those things, and really what's in it for them, because they're going to leave that conversation. And one of the best, quotes that I think that's out there is, people will forget what you told them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that person's going to leave that conversation and say, wow, Shannon really cares. She asked about, family, recreation, occupation, and dreams. They won't categorize it like that, but, asked about all these things. She really cares. about me and what I'm looking for and what we're looking for in a new home or what we're looking for when we're selling this home, people remember that. And so if you have someone who says, I just want the highest amount for this property and, maybe in more of an like investor type client, then maybe none of that even matters one bit, right? Maybe it is strictly price, how long you've been in the business. I don't care anything else. But for most of the clients that we're working with in our business, this stuff matters, right? And a lot of it is emotions. The last piece here, this last sentence is more just motivation for you to think about. If you're reluctant to reach out to people, you're only thinking about yourself and not their need of a great person to help them, which is you. And so it's kind of like one of those things like, you are a fantastic agent, know it, and know that if you don't help them sell their property or buy their property, then someone else will. And do you want you, who cares about them, who's really interested in their success and their goals and helping them get there, do you care about that part of it? Or are you like, I don't have enough experience, or, this is happening, or whatever's going on in the marketplace? The marketplace is crazy. There's so many multiple offers. You being that person, that's what they need. They need you to help them be able to navigate. So leading into that, the first book I want to tell you about is called The 7 Levels of Communication. Has anyone read that? Michael Mayer? I see a couple of heads shaking yes. If you haven't read it, and maybe you're not a physical book person, this is also on Audible, which is my favorite way to read books. And so you can be in the car and read, right? And so the 7 levels of communication inside this book, and I'm going to outline a few of the highlights in this book. But he talks about a real estate agent. So a real estate agent and a mortgage person, and he kind of talks about the networking in there. He talks about how you can expand your business and grow your business kind of from the inside out. But really from you asking a lot of the types of questions that we've already looked at so far, right? Being able to grow your business that way, rather than just relying on reacting, right? Like reacting. Oh, hey, my friend wants to buy a property. I know you're in real estate. Here you go. Falls in your lap. Those are fantastic, and we love those. But we also want to be able to, kind of sustain that business and grow it from the inside too. So the first thing that he looks at, in the first phrase that really sticks out in this book is, if you're meeting someone, back to the conversation pieces, is if you had a friend or neighbor who was looking to sell, who would you recommend they call? Right? So you're chatting with that person, you're meeting that person, you're doing any of those type things. If you had a friend or neighbor who was looking to sell, who would you recommend they call? So you're not asking them, hey, would you use me if you were buying or selling, or can I help you buy and sell? This is something that is directed towards them, and they're more likely to give you an honest answer, right? Like, oh, I would refer my friend to James or to Shannon or whoever else, right? They're going to give you that answer. And so that's going to tell you a lot. If they say, I don't have an agent that I would recommend to them right now, well, that's great, because following up, that's where we're gonna kind of ask some more questions. Even if they tell you an answer there, yes, Shannon is who I would refer my friends to, then a question that you can ask is, what would it take for me to be that go-to person? So there's a couple of ways you can phrase it. This is how they phrase it in this book. And then they follow up with that, throughout the conversation, right? Obviously, you're asking a lot of the things that we asked earlier. Is I want to be your go-to person for real estate. If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that if you get to know me and my business better and like what you see, I'd be your go-to person, right? So you're kind of digging in a little bit. I want to be the person for you when someone comes to you and says, I'm buying or selling a property, or do you know anyone in real estate? I want to be that person. And so you're not setting it up for today. You're setting it up for the next however many years you're in real estate, right? You're trying to, again, build that long-term mindset that we talked about earlier by asking these types of questions. You want to be the person they refer. Obviously, in this book too, he doesn't just talk about what you need. He talks about what they need. And part of it was like what we looked at when it says, how can I help you? How can I be part of your business? How can I help your business? That's the other piece to that, obviously, right? You're connecting, you're asking them for help, in addition to saying, how can I help you? Another book is called Ninja Selling. They actually have real estate courses and things like that. Some of you may have taken their course or read this book. And they're similar in the aspect of referrals, right? Which the whole reason we're looking at these two and the other ideas is because back in that study where it showed so many people were getting referred by someone to sell their property, well, we want to capitalize on that. If that's where the majority of people are getting their agent, then we want to hone in on that and make sure that's at top of mind for us. In this book, he's got some really, really good sayings in there, but he talks about the samurai versus the ninja. That's why it's called ninja selling. I won't go into the full details, but the quick story is at some point there were all these samurais, warriors and things like that, and the head person needed some protection, but he didn't want people to know who the samurais were that were protecting him. So there were the quiet samurais, which they named the ninjas that protected him. There's way more to the story than that, but that's the overview of it. So kind of the quiet selling, right? The non-selling selling. That's where he drives in the correlation there with ninja selling. And then his whole thing is more dollars per hour, or like we talked about earlier, more time, more money, more dollars per hour for your time, right? Through being able to do some of these processes. And he really does break down a system of what he calls a system, right? Step-by-step proven. If you follow it, you're going to get predictable results. And it works regardless of who you are. And then he talks about it being built around three things: your mindset, how you run your brain, how you manage your emotional energy, your skills, and your actions, what you do day to day. And what he says in there is that the mindset, whether you choose to be a player or victim, is the most important of the three, right? So we hit mindset earlier on, but this is just driving home our mindset as a listing agent, as the person who's going to help these sellers and help my database, get to a goal of theirs. I want to be that person, right? And I will be that person. So we also have an amazing video, actually amazing series of videos on our YouTube channel at solidsourcechannel.com from Jeff Henderson. And this one in particular is turning good intentions into reality and sustaining it. And what he talks about in here are three really good ideas. Plus wanting your business, another phone call, another contact, plus one, relationship building essentially through all of that. He goes into great detail and tells you that. And then his question, which kind of, if you are really looking at what we're talking about today as a theme, who do you know that I need to know? So another great way to phrase it to anyone you're talking to, right? Who do you know that I need to know? Not, hey, can I help you buy or sell a property? Who do you know that I need to know is a fantastic question. He goes into this. This is probably my favorite video that he has on that I've seen of his in general, and it's on our YouTube channel. And again, we have a playlist of him. So he comes from a lot more of the mindset aspect of real estate and just business and human interaction in general. But that question is so powerful, right? Who do you know that I need to know? And then that's about connecting, right? Connecting, growing, and it makes people feel important too. Just from a general level when you're asking things like that. The other one that he says is, would you recommend my business to a friend today? So like the question we just looked at in that 7 levels of communication is, can I be that go-to person? So, a lot of it may sound simple and like, oh, that doesn't work because internet leads and all of this, but we looked at the stats. All of those people are referring people that they know to sellers. And so that's where, these three, the 7 levels, and then the ninja selling, and then Jeff Henderson, and I assume the Go Giver Sell More, added into that. And I'm sure there are plenty more, but around that whole theme, right, of helping that person out, trying to figure out what you can do to help grow their business and be in it for them. So we're about to wrap up the people section. We just have a couple more slides on that. Another important person in the entire process of this, right? You go under contract, you help the seller before all of that listing presentation, you get to the point where it's ready to close. You're trying to take a deep breath, but you're like, we have to get to the closing table. We have to finish things before I can take a breath and ask for a review and get pictures and give presents and all that stuff, right? Well, the last person, really involved in there that's going to help make or break the thing is the closing attorney. And so you definitely want to make sure you have some good recommendations there. We strongly recommend Weissman Law Firm just on the sheer fact that they will go out of their way to make you the rock star and clear any hurdles that you might have in that real estate process. So 15 convenient Metro Atlanta locations and a Savannah office. They actually have red carpet service and a dedicated facilitator for solid source agents named Sherry Gill. She is fantastic, along with an actual other team members there that will just help make your life easier. And especially if you're a new agent, you have never closed anywhere. If you only close at Weissman, you're going to think everyone's like that, and they're not. So just from my experience, okay. You can schedule closings at closingconnect.net, and they also have online earnest money like we do at weissmanem.com. If you're closing at Weissman, I strongly recommend they hold the earnest money, just as a little side note. But again, they make you the rock star throughout this whole process. And as you've done such a tremendous job of what you bring to the table, now you're at the closing table, and now they make you look even better. And clients leave with a smiling face, and we go through that whole process of now asking for referrals from them. So definitely a great bow on the whole process that you're able to put together. Can't recommend them anymore. I mean, they are fantastic. Last part of the people side that we want to look at is the Knock, Go, and Home Swap programs. So we offer both of these solutions here at Solid Source. Now, they are a mortgage company, so Knock Mortgage. And so take advantage of this. I'm only buying, that's the Go program for what we're talking about today, selling. So buying and selling, and you have that client. This is a website I'm going to pop up here in a second that you can copy down, or we can send to you. Actually, we've already sent to you once, but we'll send it again, and I'll pop it up here. That's a dedicated website, which is this site that you see on the screen, and you can give it to your clients. And essentially, all they have to do is go in and click Get Started on the buying and selling, and it will walk them through that process. They'll have a place in there to put your name. It says you're currently working with a Solid Source agent, which, yes, you. And so you'll be able to have that information. They'll have that information. They'll be able to process them through this through their system. But the great benefit for you, the agent, is they're able to buy a new home without selling their current home. So buying that new property, fully moving into that new property, and then you as the agent have up to 6 months to sell their existing home, their current property. And in this marketplace, you may not need 6 days, but you have up to 6 months, based on their contingency there with that part of it. But they're able to fully move in. They don't have a moving truck sitting at the closing with the double closes that day. Very convenient for your clients, less stress. They also give up to $25,000 in home prep to your client, essentially for their current home, for their old home, to help replace carpet, paint, do anything that's needed to help sell that property. So a great situation for you, and something, again, that now you can bring up to clients when you're talking to them. Hey, we've got this great new program. I just wanted to talk to you about it. I know you're thinking about selling at some point, but you didn't want to sell because you didn't have a place to go to. Well, now we have a solution for you, and here it is, right? So learn about it, understand it, be able to at least talk about it to that capacity. And again, hopefully that spurs up some business for you, and really in the end helps clients, right? Helps your clients through that. The website is this, and I'll put it also in the chat box, but it's knock.com/brokerages/solid-source. So that's the website. It is customer facing, so you can send it directly to your client. And they can read more information. They can apply right there. You can help them right there with them go through it. There's also an app on your phone that you can download, the Knock Home Swap app, and you can walk them through that process right there. They can get qualified, with you. You can jump on the phone. You see there's a phone number at the top of that website. If you're with your client and they have more questions that you can't answer right there on the spot, call that phone number and have a group conversation with Knock about that. So really great solution. It's also one of those things where even if your client says, no, I'm buying all cash, or I'm doing something different, they don't want to use anything else like this program, at least you've offered it, and you have something that not everyone can offer, to your clients, right? So another tool for you, another check mark for you. So beyond the closing, and we're wrapping up the people section, we'll go into process here shortly. Beyond that, top customer service equals referrals. We want to give systematic property updates in the MLS to our clients. So, home anniversaries, things like that, to send that annual CMA. You can attach a video to it if you want to. You can send them the mailed copy with a handwritten note. Hey, your home value is updated, but keeping in touch, right? And it's not only about their home. Oh, well, they're not going to sell for another 5 years. Well, you're not only doing this for their home, you're doing it so that when they have someone, back to that conversation that comes to them, that they're able to refer you and you're top of mind, right? Oh, yes, of course I have an agent for you. Claudia is a great agent and I'm going to recommend her. She's always in touch with me, always giving me updates on my property. And then asking for reviews, right? People love to tell other people about good service and things like that. And then there is a difference between good and great. And so that's what we're talking about today is how to provide that great service. Over to the right, you'll have this download at the end of class. And I'll show you where to find it so you don't have to write this down. But you'll have this template and you can use it. You can modify it, whatever you want to do. You'll be able to put your review links in there, whether it's Zillow, Google, Facebook, anything like that. You'll just embed that link, your review link into that text, and you can email this, whatever you want to do, send it out to your clients after. You can do something totally different, but this is just an idea and something that I used to use. So again, the whole goal of pretty much that entire section that we looked at when we talked about all of those stats, right? If you just really focus on not being a secret agent and not just hoping and thinking that all these deals are just going to fall in our laps, right? We're proactive, we're talking with people, we're networking, we're building for the future, and not just building for next week or this year. We want to build a sustainable business where we can have more time and more money and be able to go forward in our listing success here. What we're going to talk about in this section is the actual process. So we've gone over the people, some things to say, some places to think about where sellers are hiding so we can reach out to them and chat with them and make their life easier. That's ultimately the goal here, is for you, the professional, to be able to help people that people that know you through this process. So we will actually go through just a visualization of a listing roadmap. And we all know that real estate flows in just a single straight line. Nothing ever happens. There are no real big hurdles or hiccups or anything that happen. You meet with the client, you close, and everything's amazing from that point, right? Well, obviously not. So we'll look at a roadmap, but know that this road can be winding. Sometimes it does go in a straight line, which we love those too. But that's what we're here for. We're here to help the client through all of these. So for the listing roadmap, they're interviewing agents. You're helping them price their home, prep their home, market the property, coming soon, offers, due diligence under contract, appraisal, repairs, final walk, closing, and the follow-up. All easy, right? And it may not be an exactly easy process, but it's also not something to be nervous about or afraid of if you are a newer agent. So this is a general overview of the process. Just to give you some ideas of it if you haven't been through that before, and maybe if you just haven't ever seen it laid out, in that type of a time frame. You still know it, but maybe you just haven't seen it. But what we want to talk about is keeping this simple and keeping it in a tight 3-step process for our process here in our listing. It's going to be the pre-listing, the presentation, and then prep and market. So again, we had 2 P's earlier for the whole thing, the people in the process, and 3 P's here: pre-listing, presentation, and prep and market. So we're going to think about our whole process just boiling down to those 3 things. So in the pre-listing, now, pre-listing can mean a lot of different things to you. You may already have a process down. Your pre-listing is, you do your homework on the property, you make your cloud CMA, you do some drive-throughs through the neighborhood maybe, or something like that. Or maybe it's just you met with the seller. You talked with them, or you know them, right? Like it could be a friend or family. You already know the property. You already know all of that stuff. One of the things, that I know that we all know this here, that separates you from being a true professional from maybe not true professional is, regardless if it's your friend or family or coworker or new person that you've never met, you want to make your process something that you just know and that you have for all of your clients, right? And if you do that and you have continuity, it's going to be easier for you, but also when they meet with their friends, like we talked about earlier, it's going to be something where they say, I was wowed, and I'm their cousin or sister or brother or whatever, right? Expecting that they wouldn't give you, necessarily that highest professional level of service, just because they already knew you had the business, right? But you doing that and having that process is just going to help them be easier about referring you to other people. So the pre-listing that we look at here today may be different than what you've done before, and it may be something that you've done half of or a hybrid of, or you may already do it. And if you already do it, I'd love to know, kind of your story on this. But what we want to think about in the pre-listing is keep this in mind. Success is where preparation and opportunity meet, right? So we really want to prepare because when it comes time to have that opportunity with that seller, we really want to shine. And so the first step that I would highly recommend in this is to have questions for the seller before the appointment, right? A lot of times we have questions for the seller at the appointment or at some other point in the process. But if you have these questions answered and you ask these questions before the appointment, then all of the work can be done while you're researching the property, while you're thinking about getting to that place and actually meeting that seller. So, especially more along the lines of you've never actually been to this person's home. These are some great questions, and maybe where you don't know this person just on a tremendous best friend level. These are some questions that can really help you. So we'll go through. You'll have this sheet as a download resource, so don't worry about writing all of these down. You'll have them. You can take the questions you like and use. You can add your questions in, whatever you want to do. But number one, just why are you selling, right? That's a big question. You can learn a lot from that. Have you decided where you're moving? So now you're not only talking about the sell, but also being able to help them buy, but also helping them with that transition, right? What is your ideal time frame to move out of your current home? Have you completed any updates? So this is going to help you when you go to your CMA. Maybe their property was sold, 3-4 years ago. You can find some information in the MLS, and maybe not. But either way, if you know they've done updates, now you have a little bit better idea than just walking in and saying, "Oh, you put quartz in." Now you know because they told you, and now you can help price that into your cloud CMA before you get to the property. This is a question you can kind of hybrid this however you want. You can format it for you. But if you were to rate the condition from 1 to 10, with 10 being immaculate, what would you rate the condition of your home? And if they say 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, what would make it a 10 in the buyer's eyes? So this is kind of one of those questions that you're setting them up for. Hey, listen, I'm going to look at your home through the buyer's eyes. They're going to be buyers coming to your home. What would a buyer say? Not you, who's lived in the home for 5-10 years, but what would a buyer say, and what would you rate it? Again, that's another question that's going to help you on your CMA and not have you surprised when you get to that property, hopefully. What price would you put the home on the market for if you listed it today? They may say that's why I'm hiring you, or that's why you're coming out to the appointment. No problem, right? But they may also say, I keep an eye on the market. I know what it could go for. I think it should go for this amount. Gives you an idea, because when you pull your CMA, you can be like, okay, they're extremely realistic or extremely unrealistic, right in the middle, right? Like you're gonna find out something there, and so we just want to find out what that is. I'm creating a net sheet for you, Mr. and Miss Seller, and I want it to be as accurate as possible. Can you tell me what you owe on the home? Some people are not comfortable asking this. It's totally up to you. But if you want to provide that net sheet, which we'll look at in a second, to be as accurate as possible, if they give you an answer there, that's why you ask it like that, because you can be very accurate with it. And again, we'll go into that in a second. Next question, what's the most important thing for you that you're looking for in a real estate agent that sells your home? So this really helps set you up again for your appointment, right? To maximize the time that you're going to have with them. This really helps set that up, because if they say, I want someone who can market it out to, 1 million people and all over Facebook and all of that, versus I just want the person who's going to get the highest price, or I need to be out of here in 10 days, or whatever that answer is. Now you at least can take that and filter it and funnel it into your system, into what you can do for them, rather than just showing up at the appointment, asking this, and now having to adjust on the fly. Oh, you like, social media marketing? Let me go to my page and show you, or I don't have any, and let me now try to combat that, right? The more information you have up front. Do you have any questions for me before we meet? And then number 10 here, will all decision makers be at our meeting? We've probably all met clients where there was another decision maker as part of that process, either going to be actually on the deed, or they were just an extreme, person, an extreme case where another person needs to be helping in that decision, right? And so that's a good question to ask to make sure that you maximize your time and their time, because you do not want to go to an appointment where, say it's a husband-wife scenario and you're meeting with one of the spouses and then they're relaying your information to that other person, because you're always going to get the, well, I need to meet with my husband, wife, whatever, to talk about this. Now you're out of the equation. It's between them two, right? And the decision's probably already been made. So that's a tough one. So highly recommend, both people being there. And if they say, well, they can't be there on Sunday at 2, then say, how about Sunday at 4, or, Monday at 1, or whatever. Try to find something where you aren't just yes or no and okay, I'm done. Try to give some solutions so you can get there in front of all the decision makers, if at all possible. You don't want to have to do this twice. And also you run the risk of only being able to do it once and then, not even being able to do it twice for that other person. This one you can, or you don't have to ask. You can, or don't have to ask this one. Are you interviewing other agents? I think it's a good one, just to chat about. Know what you're going against. Again, you don't have to ask some of these, or you can, however level of comfort you have. But I think it's a good one to get some insight, because the other thing that comes out of that is, yeah, my cousin Steve is an agent. He's already given me a CMA, and now you're dealing with another agent that's a family member, right? So now you can kind of go that route. The second to last one here is more of a statement. I'm going to email you a pre-listing package that is important to our meeting, whatever meeting you're setting up, and to the success of your home selling. Would you please take 5 minutes to review it before we meet? I'll show you what's going to go in that package. But again, this is all about getting information, being the professional, showing up at that appointment time where you can really focus on them and not all of the other stuff that we normally focus on inside of maybe a cloud CMA or our listing presentation. So I'll show you more of that. And then our meeting should take between 45 minutes and an hour, or adjust whatever your normal meetings are, including all the paperwork. And that's an important piece to put in there, right? All the paperwork, meaning listing agreement, things like that. Does that work for you? And, again, that's the respecting of their time, but also setting expectations that this is not a 15-minute meeting. We need 30, 45 to an hour of time there. So I highlighted a few of my favorites out of this one that I for sure would ask at a bare minimum. And this would be just because you have an appointment that afternoon with them and you have 5 minutes to ask them questions. Those would be the ones that I would go for. Why are you selling? What's the most important thing in an agent? Do you have questions? And will all decision makers be there? But I think all of them, or at least a combination of about 10 of these questions, are very important for you to ask, just to have the most information. So we talked about that pre-listing package that we're actually going to send to the seller, right? So what's in it? It can be as complicated as you want it to be. It can be as simple as you want it to be. A few things that I think are important to be in there is your marketing. Now that can be inside the cloud CMA. We'll try to take a look at the end of class, if we have time, how to get that in your actual cloud CMA so you don't have to do it every time. It's just built in there. But some form of your marketing, if you've done other listings, right? Or if you are good at social media just in general, and maybe you're new, some examples of that. An absorption report, if you've never run that, we have a great video on our YouTube channel. We'll try to look at that after this class as well, or at the end of this class. And then a cloud CMA. We've all, hopefully run those and know how to navigate there, live or print for the meeting, but obviously, printed to PDF or downloaded as a PDF for you to actually send this to your client. And then that net to seller sheet. And again, I'll show you how to download that, how to use it. It's very easy to use. But a lot of sellers ask for that, especially in this marketplace, kind of what could I walk away from, this house with, and that's not an accounting spreadsheet for you. It's just an estimate, right? So the exclusive listing agreement, that's in there too, because you want to give them the prep of, this is a listing agreement. Obviously, it's not going to have everything filled out there, but you will bring one filled out with you to the listing appointment, because that's going to solidify the relationship there so you can move forward and start marketing the property. So this is your pre-listing package, right? The next step after you put all of that together is just send it, right? Download it, add it to a personalized email, send it to them, and call or text just to verify that they've received it. Again, this is setting up, saving their time and your time when you're meeting. You're going to go through the cloud CMA with them and those type of details, but you want them to be able to see it multiple times, right? If the first time they've ever seen anything about you is when you're there with them, that's a lot happening, right? Especially for a lot of sellers, they're meeting you, they're trying to get to know you, and they're trying to digest all of this info. If they at least have 5 minutes a day between your call and the presentation that you're going to have with them to read some of that info, understand you a little bit, research you, then that's going to put you in a leg up, right? They say you need, I think it's like 7 times for people to start remembering you, right? When you see different things. So that's just another time that they're seeing you, they're seeing your information, your professionalism, and it's emailed. So it's not like you had to print out a bound copy, mail it, priority mail, which you can do. There are agents that do that, print and then send it. But the way we're talking about today is kind of an easier send by just doing it through email. Does anyone currently do a pre-listing package? I'm curious. Some form. It doesn't have to be like this, but some form of information sent over beforehand. I see quite a few heads shaking yes, so that's awesome. I love that the idea of agents doing that. I think it just further solidifies, and I'm glad there's some people out there that are already doing that. So that's an idea. You can use a lot of different things in this. You can send videos. Agents, get really creative and have maybe a personalized video in front of the neighborhood, or I don't know if you want to necessarily go in front of their house and create a video before the meeting and send it, but maybe in front of the neighborhood, or just a promotional video that you shoot, or just taking your iPhone, turning it around and saying, I can't wait to meet with you on Sunday at 3. I'm going to send you over these things, and then emailing that or texting that, and then emailing your email with the information. Okay. So that's an easy way to just think about it. You're just trying to get in front of them. So now we're actually at the presentation. So we've sent the pre-listing package. We've confirmed that they have it. It's the next day or 2 days later, or whatever time you're actually going to meet with that client, right? So there's a lot happening. We want to try to break it down into just a few ways to think about it. And so you're at the seller's home. We're going to think about greet, view, and review. So greet the client, greet the seller, view the home, and then review all of the stuff that we've sent, and especially the pre-listing package, right? I mean, that's the really important thing there. So we'll break these down even further and just give a few topics on greeting the seller. We all know how to greet people, but arriving 10 minutes early or 5 minutes early, be there early, right? There are people who you show up late, they're probably going to cross you off the list if they're interviewing multiple agents. And so, try to get there early, drive the neighborhood if you're there super early, go check out the amenities. Does it back up to something else? Hopefully you know that information and you've seen it before. But if you didn't, then now's your time to do that. Dress professionally, bring a warm greeting and a smile. And that's the key there. And then the kitchen table, right? That's the place where probably you're going to meet at after. And we talk about the tour in detail a little bit in the next slide. But the kitchen table, asking that client after you've done the initial greet, thank you for having me out here type thing, is can I set my things down at the kitchen table while we take a look at the property. And so again, that's that central hub. You're setting it up for when you're coming back later and actually sitting down and reviewing all the stuff. Because now what you want to do is tour the home and talking to the client about that you want to view the home through the eyes of a potential buyer, and if they'd be so kind to show you around the property. And so now you're walking with them. You're going to go take a look at viewing the actual home. So at the kitchen table, you set down everything except for a notepad, your iPad, whatever you like to write with. And actually have that on the tour with you, right? It's impressive when, people can remember, orders of food, like a million different things, and they come back and everything's accurate. But the show of you writing down the information shows that seller that you're taking notes, that you're interested in what's happening as they are giving you their time too. So I think it's important to show the sellers that you're writing down notes as they're walking you through the property. You're writing down notes about updates. You're also writing down notes about needed repairs. They may have not told you on that phone call because they didn't think it was a big deal, but you look up and you see a big water stain on the ceiling, or you see a part of the carpet that's torn out, or whatever it is as you're walking through, and you're being able to write down this information. It's also helping you because you've already sent a cloud CMA and you have your cloud CMA today, and it's helping you come up and finalize that price, because on that cloud CMA you didn't put a suggested price, you just gave them the comps. Today is when you're going to talk about the actual pricing. So this is all, you're taking your cloud CMA information, you're walking the property with the seller, and then you're coming up with a range price that you think the home could sell for or should sell for in this market. So all of these things help you get there. You're also writing down commonalities, pictures on the wall of animals, or sports teams or things like that. You're also just trying to set that up so that future contacts, you talk to them about how's their animal, how did you see that game, whatever it is. You have to write down some of these things. You can't remember everything, or at least I can't. So I recommend writing it down. Interact with the seller on the tour. You're looking again for those connection points, and then really looking through the home. And what that means is sometimes you'll go into a home that you've never seen that layout, or there's something in there that's hidden that is really a benefit to the property, but maybe you didn't open up that walk-in closet and see how massive it is, or a renovation that was done in a part of a house, maybe in more of an attic space that's normally just an attic, but if you open the door and look, you see this really good room that you can help market the property with. And sometimes the seller will say, hey, go look at that. Or sometimes they're just going to kind of show you and see if you, ask to see it. So checking out the windows, all of the stuff that's built into the home, again, trying to help you price out that property as best possible. So really look through the home, not just glance in the room, leave, glance in that room, 5 second, now you're at the kitchen table. Really look through it. After the tour, in this scenario, you're sitting down with the client, thanking them for their time. You're at the kitchen table, and now we're going to review the marketing and listing information. And you've already done all of the hard work. You've done the marketing, the absorption report, net seller sheet, listing agreement, and whatever else you want to do for the listing presentation. So you've already done all of that. You have all of that. They have all of that because you emailed it to them. And so now you have a print copy of at least the listing agreement, probably the net to seller and the CMA. You may be able to do all of this digitally, on your laptop or on your iPad if you want to. Some clients will ask for, a hand copy because maybe they didn't print out the one that you emailed them. So you have all of this. Now it's time to review it. Again, Cloud CMA print version, that's the one on the left. The live CMA, which if you haven't done that before, that's a great option to do on your desktop or your iPad right there with the client. It is very interactive, a lot more interactive than the PDF that would be more suitable for like print. And then we also have a digital listing presentation on Vision you could download and make your own out of a PowerPoint. If I were doing this right now for a client, I would definitely print out the Cloud CMA PDF version, have that physically in hand, but then I would review that live CMA there with the client. Now, it does require internet access, so plan accordingly. Make sure your phone's set up for a hotspot or something like that. That way you don't have to ask the client for their Wi-Fi password. But go through that, have it right there on your computer, and you can look at live pictures, scroll through the pictures. It's really nice, really interactive if you've never done that version. It's just right there beside the download PDF version in Cloud CMA. So you have that, you're going through the information, you're talking about the comps, you're talking about the pricing, you're having your range because now you've walked through the property, right? You probably had maybe a good, better, best, or a low, middle, high scenario in your head from the work you've done on the Cloud CMA and tax records and any information you can find based on what the neighborhood is, right? Maybe there's properties that are middle of the road, some that are not updated at all, and then some that are really updated. And so now as you're walking through the property, you're like, okay, this one's middle of the road, or maybe it's one of the other categories. And now your range of pricing, comes into play for all the homework you've done. And so now when you're sitting down with that client, when you're talking about the pricing, that's where you're going to be able to bring that information in. So you have the presentation, the marketing, all of the other stuff that you've already gone through, and now you're going to go through the listing agreement with them, right? You've already sent them a copy of the listing agreement just so they know what's there. Bring a copy of the listing agreement with you, obviously, and have all of my recommendation is have all of the information typed in, not handwritten in. I mean, you can handwrite it, but I recommend typing it all in except for the listing price and obviously their signature. And so you're going to talk about the listing price right there with them. They're going to sign it right there with you. If you make this as easy as possible for them, you're helping them, do this too, right? This is not only something that's going to help you in your process, but it's also going to help them. So type in all of the information. You're going to discuss pricing with the seller. And the goal is to guide and inform them, right? You're the guide. You're the person that's going to help that. And really, this is the question. How will you make their selling process as easy as possible for them, right? And this whole thing that we're talking about, that's what we're trying to do. So all of this other information can be filled in. You can find all of the tax records. You can find the, where you're going to market it in the MLS systems, the listing period. You can go ahead and fill in, right, for whatever normal term period you're doing there. 3, 6 months, maybe a year if it's a really difficult home to sell or something like that. But you can have all of that filled in. The worst case scenario is they say, I'm not going to give you a 4-month listing agreement, and you strike it right there and you fill in 3 months or 2 months or whatever it's going to be with initials, right? The only thing being the price on this page and then the signature on the last page that they'll need to actually fill in right there. And so they love you. Everything's great. Once signed, get ready to market the home. We all know that's exactly how all of these scenarios go. But you've brought a lot to the table, right? You've given them information about their property, about the comps, your marketing, what you're going to do to help sell the property. And so another class will go through all of those exact details, and we'll go into a little bit more about it here just in our time today. So potential hurdles when you're talking to the client. Just the offer, right? And again, these are things that you're talking to your clients that you're bringing to the table to help them through the process. On the offer, the types of financing, on the inspections, that's a big one, right? Items that you may want to help them address before they even go to contract, right? As you're walking through that property, making those notes, and then some things that they can pay for, right? Like carpet or whatever, that you just like give them a heads up. Hey, most buyers are probably going to, and maybe not in today's market, but most buyers may ask for carpet to be replaced because it's just shredded. And so they may ask for more closing costs to cover that type thing. So you prepping the seller so they're not surprised when that inspection comes. And then the other thing is the appraisal, right? Helping them understand what an appraisal is, because you're not just helping them get the property with the sign in the ground and praying, right? You're helping them through this entire process. And so potential roadblocks that could cause, things you'll be looking for on the offers that come to them. The more you educate and explain to them what's happening, the more of a professional they're going to understand that you are. And then the final walk, right? What does that look like? Most buyers have a final walk. This is what that part of the equation looks like. And this is how I'm going to help you, when we get to that. And then what happens at closing. And the way to think about that is, and you can say this to clients, right, is the home, we really have to sell this thing 4 times: at the offer, at the inspection, at the appraisal, and then at the final walk and closing, right? So we're not done with this once we go under contract. I'm here for the entire process. And, I'm going to help this home get sold, 4 times. You may be able to phrase that a little differently, but that's that part. 3 main factors before we get to the prep and market, condition, price, and location. Can't really change location that much or at all. The price you can control, and the condition you can control. And so when you're talking to a client, and I've seen this style of slide we're looking here shared in about 3 or 4 different categories, but I think a lot of it falls into this: the condition of the property, the price of the property, and the location. Those are kind of the main 3 factors, and a lot can go underneath that. So when you're explaining it to sellers, let's break it down like this. We want to make sure the property is ready to go when we get it marketed, so that we can sell for the best price and the best terms for you as we go through there. And that's assuming everything's in the MLS, just visible, right? Oranges or apples to apples, not apples to oranges. Next part, we got the listing, part 3 of our listing with the pre-listing, the presentation. The third P is prep and market. So does anyone in here like to do or believe in listing a property in coming soon status? I see some like this, some like this. I wish we had more time because I would love to ask each one of you, because I love just to hear that that side of it. Today's class, what we're going to talk about is going through a coming soon. Listen, we all know in today's market, you put a sign out, it could be gone in an hour, or as you're putting the sign in the ground, right? But again, we're thinking about this long term and not just in today's snapshot of a market. We're thinking about this, overall, you building your business and having your process down. And so what I would suggest is to, if you're not thinking about doing coming soon, is to think about it. And if you are doing it, great. Here's some more suggestions with that. But building a buzz with coming soon does a lot. It does a lot to help you just brand yourself, right? I mean, it is, if you're thinking about it that way, your goal in business is to have as many eyeballs on your information as possible, to see your picture or your name and things like that, so you can brand yourself. But also, this helps the client. I'll tell you why. We'll go through that. So building the buzz with coming soon, professional photos and video. We all know that's important. We'll take a little bit of a deeper dive into that in a second too, about the professional photo part. You can send this to your database, the people that you already know, to give them an early online preview, right? Take a look at this home coming soon. The MLSs will let you do a coming soon for up to 21 days. You don't have to use 21 days. It can be one day, right? But if you just do one day coming soon, I'll tell you some benefits of that. So you can do coming soon, just listed postcards to the 20 closest neighbors, to 100 neighbors, to the neighborhood, whatever you want there. So it gives you an additional branding time, right? Coming soon, then you go just listed, then you go under contract, then you go just sold. You can use that on social media or in print, however you want to structure that. But it does give you another status to be able to, market that property. In this scenario, we'll look at a calendar, but you can go live like on a Thursday with an open house on Saturday, right? And I'll tell you, this bottom piece right here for me is the reason why I walked you through this. Is it's a huge benefit for your seller. You have a lot of showings right now, right? So in one weekend, you put a property on the market, and say the seller still lives there, right? And say they have to come out for every showing. So maybe you have 5, 10 showings that weekend, maybe 20. And so maybe there's some gaps in between. The seller needs to go back home to let the dog out or whatever. If you structure it like this, what we're about to look at on the calendar, you will save your client time. And so what that might look like is today or Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, when you go meet with your seller and they sign your listing agreement, you could put it in coming soon status, right? For all of this period of time or whatever. I would recommend you get to like a Thursday to where that coming soon ends and it's active on market. And then in the notes, showing start on Saturday. And that's when you have your open house. You can have 2, you can have 1, whatever you want to do. You can have a 4-hour, a 2-hour, a 1-hour, whatever you want to do for that property. But that's when all of the people come through the property, right? And so you probably seen this strategy. You may have done this strategy, but it does help your seller, because you're like, seller, I need you out of the property from noon to 4 on Saturday and noon to 4 on Sunday, or 11 to 6 on Saturday, whatever your time frame is. But then besides that, they're back in the house, right? And hopefully, with this market especially, you've gotten some offers just from that time period. So that's where I would argue it does save your client some time and headache and scheduling, things. If it's a vacant property, it's just probably more of a branding play and time for, you to be able to meet people too, but also give people time to go see a property. There are buyers who, visit properties just to see open houses, but there also are buyers that come up unrepresented who are serious. So you never know what's going to happen there, but I would argue that it is a good chance for you to market that property and to brand yourself. So after the open house, hopefully you're giving your client great feedback, negotiating offers on the march to closing. We touched on pictures. Does anyone here believe that cell phone pictures are better than professional pictures? Show of hands, anybody. So cell phone pictures, we all shook our head no. I mean, maybe there's a case here and there for maybe something, maybe more investor level that you would do. But again, this is your branding. And if we're thinking about that long-term play, right, the long-term versus short-term, this is your branding. If this is your first listing, this is your chance to take those pictures and now show it to the next seller, and now show the 2 listings to the next seller, and continue on, right? So that's why, and plus you're going to show this online, you're going to market it there. That's when people look at pictures and say, oh, who did that? Right? Or, wow, look at those pictures. I know that neighborhood, and look at that home, right? and not that they edited the photos, but I'll show you some examples of what just regular editing can do to a picture from a professional. Arriving early, staging the home for photo session. That doesn't mean you have to stage the home. That doesn't mean you have to bring furniture in. Now, if it needs it, definitely want to talk to the seller about doing something like that. But more staging it for the actual photo session. And we'll actually give you this checklist to download in Vision that walks through that. And so this is more for like to the seller. Hey, we have pictures Tuesday. I'm going to give you kind of a checklist. These are the things we want to really check out, because some of these things, you're not going to necessarily do. Some of the things you may do, right? Opening up the window shades, turning all the lights on, those type things. And so you would want to arrive a little bit early to help do that. And a lot of photographers, a lot of real estate photographers will tell you, like, especially if it's maybe your first time, just say, hey, what do I need to do? Turn on lights, do this or that at their recommendation. And they say, yeah, this time of day, let's do this, because there may be the sun coming in at a different angle or whatever. But let them tell you, and then just help them, right? Because again, this is your brand, and these are your pictures that you're going to take and market with this property. And so what we have down there, obviously, is these photos can make or break the sale of the home, right? Think visitor interest. The first time a client typically sees the home is online, right? And so you're going to be able to have that checklist there. And again, here's another little stat we brought back. But the value of a website feature, photos, was ranked, as you could probably guess, #1, right? 90% almost for photos on the property. The next one is detailed information about the property, right? So photos and what is the property, what's the information about it, was voted for the highest value for buyers. So it may not come across on Zoom quite as well, but does anyone want to take a guess on which option is the professional photo, A or B? There's a fine line, right? There's a fine line between misrepresenting the property and just having a professional picture that is not edited to the point where it's editing out the sad part, like you stated, but enhancing the photo to its ultimate place, right? I mean, that's where the fine line is. And also the other thing about the professional side of it is, I like to think I'm creative and I can do a lot of things, but I've taken photos with a phone with a professional being there just to kind of, let me see what I would have done. And it's not necessarily the quality of the camera or your iPhone versus a nice camera. They're very close nowadays. It's the eye of the photographer. A lot of times it's the angle or the height or something that is in that room or on that property that they pick up, for me anyway, that I was just like, okay, there's no chance I'm ever going to take these photos because #1, it's my brand, and #2, they just have the eye for it, right? That's their career path. That's their industry. It's well worth it, in my opinion, for you to be able to market yourself and also sell the property, because that's our #1 goal, right? Is to be able to do that. But the other thing is, if you're selling a home, you're probably sending it to all your friends. I'm selling my home, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to go through the pictures and say, oh, they're either going to say that or, wow, who is your agent? I've been in your home, right? Like, who's your agent, right? And so now, that's you again. That's your brand. But all right, so I think we answered the question. Number B is obviously the pro in this one, and A is the DIY, and that's an actual picture. Like, that's an actual situation. That's not just a photo that was then edited to make it look like a pro. That is the actual situation. So. Now we talk about drone staging, other things. If you have a wow factor on that property, a lake, a mountain, golf, some kind of view, just something about that property, acreage, right? Anything that would really benefit to have drone photos. Again, another marketing piece for you to then take to the next listing or that neighborhood or that area or the lake, right? And now if like say it's your first listing on Lake Lanier, if you hire a drone photographer to take that property, but also the lake, now you have other lake drone photos for your other lake properties on Lake Lanier. Now you might have to say like, it's not in this cove and it's not this or that, right? But you at least have some general photos that you can then use. And especially if it's a neighborhood or an area that you're going to farm or that you want to work in, now you have that. And so I love the drone photos. We all like to, I think, look at, those drone photos or drone videos. And so I think it's a great benefit if you have a property that you can even think about, hey, this will be a good shot for that. It's got mountains in the background or lake or golf or whatever. So, huge benefit for being able to do that. Or you're working downtown Atlanta skyline. I mean, some of those photos are the most beautiful photos you can imagine, right? Just seeing that skyline and the drone's up high and it's not coming from inside the condo or the sky rise, right? It's something outside of there. There's just something captivating about it. And again, it's your brand. People are looking at who else is selling in this condo neighborhood area and what marketing are they doing, and you're able to bring it. So I'm going to stop talking about that part of it. Just want to show you some examples. Floor plans, virtual staging or actual. We'll look at some examples here, and also renders and item removal, which I didn't know was really a thing until I saw it the first time, and I was like, that's incredible. And so what we're going to do is look at some examples. I hope this comes across on Zoom like I see it on my screen, but the photo on the left here, the only photo you can actually see right now, beautiful photo, right? It looks great. I don't see anything wrong with it. But look at this, for an image enhancement of $1.60 to this service, boxbrownie.com, you get that after photo, much brighter, a little bit lighter. You can see the details a little more in the stone work around the front, in the landscape. I mean, just a tremendous difference, right? In between that, $1.60 just for that image. And so a lot of times your professional photographer will do this anyway. But say you got a picture and you're like, I used this photographer once and I just didn't like it. So I'm gonna send these photos in. You send 5 or 10 in, and $10, $20 later, now you have 10, 20 photos that you really love, right? And then now market you. So let's take a look at this. Empty room, after. This is virtual staging, right? Shadows, furniture, $24 for that picture, for them to do all of that. It depends on how much you want them to put in the photo on the virtual stage. But this is great for that vacant property. You're not putting, maybe the price point's not as high where it might benefit, $3,000, $5,000 staging or whatever, that runs for that square footage. And so you do a virtual stage, and obviously you put on the picture and on the MLS description that it is virtually staged, right? But it does give the person an idea when they're looking at the property. And the other good thing you can do with this is print it on really nice paper and put it in that room, right? So now when the person's walking through, maybe they looked at it online, probably, but maybe they didn't. And now they're in that room and they're like, oh, yeah, I could totally see a bed going here or a rug going here. We all know clients, they walk into an empty room, it's like, I don't understand, right? Where's the furniture go? And they want to tape it off on the floor or whatever. This kind of eliminates that if you're the listing agent, right? So now you're opening yourself up to more buyers who think like that, who are like, I don't even understand what I would do with this room. Now here is at least an example. That's one of my favorites. I love that part. This one is the one I didn't know existed. And so for $4, they will remove all the junk. It's probably the cheapest junk removal you'll get on the internet for sure, to be able to do that. So they eliminated that. Now, again, this probably is a great scenario for the person's moving out and like, you're like, we got to take these photos today because every other room's ready and it's going to rain the next 3 days. So you take the photos, send this to them for $4, and they'll take that stuff out, and your seller's going to take it out of that house tomorrow anyway. And now you have a nice clean room, which then you can take and put into the virtual staging if you want to, right? So, kind of a twofer right there for $28. Now you have a room that's staged that had junk in it before.
What was the name of that company, Demo?
Yeah, it's, I don't know if you can see on the screen, it's probably blurred a little bit, but it's Box Brownie. And I'll put it in the chat box. It's boxbrownie.com. I think there are a few out there. This is one that I've used personally when I was doing real estate. So that's why I like them. And they're super quick on the turnaround, really good customer service. You just essentially upload your picture. They send you an email and say, hey, it's ready. And, you know, you paid for it when you went into their service before. But that's an item removal. So, you know, keep that in mind. The other thing, maybe you're doing a neighborhood that has a lot of pools. So they will do a virtual renovation, you know, add a pool. This one can get pricey depending on what you want them to do, but 24 to 176, again, depending on the price point that you have for that property, it may be something that you look into, right? All the other neighbors have pools. That property, you know, would be great with a pool. So now in this scenario, in this virtual renovation, now it has a pool that you can show and say, this is what it will look like. You've probably been in properties where you see it at the front of the property when you walk in. You're like, hey, this was a you know, virtual reno of the backyard with a pool. And so all of that's available. Plus, if you're working for maybe a builder or a new construction or something like that, they'll take a floor plan, just a regular floor plan, and they'll make it sort of like a 2D textured, you know, type floor plan where the client, right, that just typical client looking at this really quick, they're going to be able to say, oh, that's where the cars go, that's where the sofa goes, that's where, you know, this and that go. And that one's around $28, so still relatively inexpensive. And then ones like this, they'll actually take a blueprint, as long as you have the elevation drawings, like the 2D, you know, flat blueprint, they'll take it and make a 3D rendering out of it as well on that property. So again, more new construction, you know, tear downs or whatever, something like that you're working with, maybe investors, but at least some great options for you to be able to market and, you know, put this out. So that's one of my favorite vendors that we'll review today for sure, just because of the cost, very, very effective, and just the quality of work. And again, you bringing something to the table as you're walking through that property, the client says, oh, you know, this basement's so great, but and maybe it's finished, but we ended up storing all of our stuff down here. And, you know, I got a great solution. We'll take the photo. We'll remove this. You'll have your stuff out before showings anyway. And, you know, now you can market the property and put that basement picture, that finished basement or whatever it is, in the listing, right? In the coming soon, and then in the listing. Next section we're going to talk about, and let's see where. Okay, yep. So we're in a good spot right here. So this section we're going to talk about, you've gotten the photos, you've done all of the hard work through the listing contract, you're going to market. Where and how should you market that? And we did have a question about the turnaround time. They haven't, depending on what you want them to do, like the image enhancements, I think was a few hours the last time I looked. And then if you wanted the full renderings, those take a few more, I think maybe like a couple of business days or something, but it should be, you know, based on whatever level of activity they currently have. So you'll just want to see what you want to get done, and they should have it on there, like turnaround time is this amount of time. But great service. Where and how should you market? Let's talk a little bit about that. And it is very important to know where buyers actually found the home they purchased. And I didn't ask you this one because we all would have said the internet, or probably most of us would have said at least started there. So if you look at this, though, the interesting thing about this one, where the buyer found the home they purchased, the internet 51, the agent 28. So 28% of the time they found the home they purchased from you, right? So you digging in the FMLS, you you know, keeping in touch with them, driving by the neighborhood, going into a new construction neighborhood, you know, doing all of that stuff. You doing the legwork, help them almost 3 out of 10 times, and then 5 out of 10 they found it on the internet. So combo of that blows everything else out of the water. And you can see down here at the bottom, right? I have a lot of agents who, you know, when we talk about just marketing properties, they ask about print, newspapers, magazines, things like that. Well, this stat from NAR shows you they have stars beside print, newspaper, home book, or other, because it's less than 1%. So when you're, you know, it's easy to chase the shiny object, this magazine, this postcard, all these other things. But when we really look at what's the highest return on investment for you and for the client, right? Because ultimately they're given a commission, and the commission is given to help sell this property, help market this property and all of that stuff. Print is great for branding. It's great for recognition and all of those things, but you have to be careful, you know, with some of those things you can chase around, and they say give me $150. I'll put it in every, print newsletter or whatever it is. But really, where are buyers finding it? And it's you and the internet that they're finding it on. So, thinking about that money going towards social media marketing or Google pay-per-click or Facebook marketing or something like that may be a better option for you and for the client to get recognition, because that's where the buyers are finding it, right? So that's where we want to be. The first step, we're going to look at it, just maybe one or two more stats here. The first step taking towards that process is, again, confirming what we just looked at. They're looking for the online properties for sale. And look at all of those. I mean, just all of that equals 40%. And then this is 43 looking online. So looked in the newspaper, information about schools and found it that way. Visited an open house, only 4%. Drove by a home, 6%. Talked to it. All of these categories only equaled 40 when looking online equaled 43, right? So again, we want to be online. We want to market it there. We want to make sure that we are really focused on that, because that's where more and more buyers are going to be looking for their property, or they just simply find it there, right? And that's good information for you. Signs, I just want to hit on this really quick. Again, this is your branding, right? So the signs that you put in front of a property, that's your brand. And so if you're using the post signs, the nice post signs out there, and you have one of those to be able to put in front of that property, that's going to market you to a certain level of expectation. So just keep that in mind. It is what it is. That's what the public looks at, right? When they're thinking about, oh, that home sold, let me go drive by there because it's in our neighborhood or area. They're going to look at all the marketing, the pictures, the signs, everything that you've done for that property that they can find on their own. Which those are two of the biggest ones, right? The listing itself, the pictures, and your signs. So, if you could swing it, highly encourage the post signs. It's just going to brand you and make you, even more the rock star that you are. You can also do some, open house signs, branding with the directional type signs to be able to do that. Add the riders if you want to, kind of just to further market yourself. If a neighbor sees a sign go in the ground today, and then tomorrow or 5 days later, even in this market, they see an under contract rider go on there with your name, they're probably going to think twice about their friend in the business or something else, someone else they know. They may put your name in there, and then maybe you contacted them or seen them as they're walking through the open house and you've already met them. And now hopefully that spurs some, opportunity for you. So if you think about it, holistically like that, like the whole thing is just working together, and you're there for the success meets opportunity. That's what the preparation is, right? So agent icon, hopefully you're able to already use these, because this is fantastic, right? This takes the guesswork out of you marketing on Facebook. And we just talked about, where are people looking? They're looking on the internet, they're looking on Facebook and Google and YouTube and Instagram and places like that. And they're seeing these beautiful properties and they're saying, I want to go see that. I want to live there. And so for these opportunities that you have right here in the palm of your hands, essentially at Solid Source, Agent Icon is tremendous resource. If you, and I normally go through this when I talk about Agent Icon, if you are not seeing an email to your email every Monday through Friday that says image of the day, and it has something like what we're looking at on the far right, the two on the far right, please check your junk folder in your email and just type the words Agent Icon, like you see printed on this slide, and try to find it and make it a safe sender, non-junk. And that should spur it to come to you every day. If you check there and you still don't see it, like you're just looking in there and you're like, it's not in junk, it's not in regular, please email me so we can get you on this, because this is just marketing done for you. All you have to do is right click, copy, paste, put it in Facebook, put it in Instagram, places like that. So this is a home on this left side. The actual photo is a home in Milton, Georgia. This was taken with a cell phone. So, there's no doctoring that was done by the photographer. Sent to Agent Icon, and you'll get a list of, if you've never seen this before, it's really cool. You'll get a list of photos back that have things like coming soon just listed. Now, just give you a little kind of a little heads up tip. What you could use this for is you're going on that listing appointment we talked about earlier. Obviously, you have to, go up to the property. So as you're going up to the property, you can take a picture of the property, text it to Agent Icon. Under 10 seconds, you're going to have back these photos that then, while you're in there with that client, You're like, this is the type of marketing that I do for my clients, right? And you'll have pictures just like this. And if you don't believe me, I hope you believe me, but if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you. And so what we'll do, I'll tell you, I will click play right now. And so you'll see this live. This was a real screen grab, real time. All you'll do, and I'll give you the numbers, the phone numbers here shortly. They're also on Vision for you, depending on if you're Solid Source Realty or Solid Source Realty Georgia. But essentially, you'll just take the picture of the home, just like you see. This is a live video right now, still playing. You'll take that picture, you'll text it to agent icon, and then you'll see that what you'll get back. And look, that was all real time. The images are ready. You click on that, and now you'll be able to go to the actual site where all of those pictures are. So just listed, just sold, new listings, under contract. You actually get congrats, thank yous, happy closing day, sold, and coming soon. So now all you have to do is just download that image, copy, paste, and put that into your marketing for that property. So that's how easy it is. If you've never done it, you can also, there's also a phone number for you to promote you. And so you can take your picture, your headshot, professional or whatever, you just take it and send it in, and you're going to get examples back, like your hometown agent and things like that. So now you can use that for marketing on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you want in your emails. So really, really nice system. If you've never used it and you cannot find those emails in junk folder, please email me so that after this class, we can get you hooked up with this, because we definitely want you to be able to have this at your fingertips. Here are the phone numbers. Like I said, you'll have all these slides at the end of class. I'll show you where to get it. If you want to take a second and write it down, if you're SSGA or SSR, feel free to do that. That is the number that you actually text your picture to. So, feel free to just snap a picture. It can be a lamp or a phone or whatever in your house, just if you want to try it out. But that is the actual phone number that you will just text the picture of the house or the kitchen or the neighborhood or whatever you want, and send it in to get the pictures back. Does anyone use that for listings? And okay, good. I see some hands. Good. I mean, it really is easy and consistent. I didn't have it when I was an agent, and so I remember going into Canva and things like that. And every time I had a listing, they were all different because I always forgot like what I did, or it didn't load properly, or I just reformed. I was like, oh, I like this font now, or whatever. These are just classy, professional, consistent, and it's your marketing, right? And so that's the good part. And so the phone numbers are down in the bottom left and bottom right, depending on if you're Solid Source Realty Georgia or Realty. This info is also on Vision. So if you don't get a chance to write this down, I'll show you where the slides are so you can get it off of that, or you can just get it in Vision in the agent icon piece. I'll show you where that is later too. So continuing with our social media presence, where we want to market these properties, Facebook marketing, right? And I'm trying to give you some actionable, easy solutions to do this. And I'm going to break this down in 2 steps because really the first step is if you have a website, let's just get this out of the way. This is the best option for you as an agent to market your business, to drive traffic to you, but also then to share your listings, okay? So you're going in your website, you're going and finding your URL. So you can just see this is just a raw URL out of the address bar link, right, on your website. This is your listing, let's just say, for example. All that you do there is just post it in to your business page, Facebook business page. And if you don't have a Facebook business page, we just put a video on our YouTube channel of how to make one, really easy to do, kind of how to start generating traffic and be able to get that out to your current audience. So highly recommend you use a Facebook business page and not your Facebook personal. You can share it to your personal, but if you start it on your business page, you can track how many clicks, how many views, you can boost it. And so then you can pay, to have it sent out to a lot of people. And if you're thinking about it again, in our whole picture of marketing yourself for not just today, but for the future, now you can take those results from this listing. It got out to 2,500 people and, 500 people clicked on it or whatever. Now you can take that info and show the next seller, this is what I do, my agent icon, my Facebook marketing, put all that together. I get this information out to people, right? So you're just taking control of it. You're saying, this is what I do for my clients, and this is the type of marketing I bring. We already know it's important We already saw 89%. That's where they look at the photos and then they go to the website, over 50% to find it. So they're there. Now we want to make sure that you're there, right? And you're marketing the properties. So all you have to do, take that URL, paste it into your Facebook business page post. This might, I don't want to get too jumbled up on this because I'm trying to make it easy. But what you'll just do is just delete out those words. So you copied and pasted the words. It's going to populate this picture. All you have to do is just delete out that URL that you put in there. And it might be better on a live example later, but I think we have one on YouTube as well. You delete it out and just write something nice. Check out this move-in ready home in Alpharetta, offered at whatever. Open house is, this date. And you may not even put the price in because the most curious people will say, oh, I wonder what that house is worth or what it's selling for. They click on it. Now they're on your website, right? And so now you're again, in your branding, now they'll see the price. But inside of there, you'll have that information. You'll click post, boom, it's on your Facebook business. Now you can boost it. There'll just be a button at the bottom that says boost. You pick, $10, $5, $100, $200, whatever you want to do to market that property. And, the more money you spend, the more eyeballs and more clicks you're going to get. And so then you can take that back to your seller and, future sellers for what you do to help market that property. So that's a two-step, way to market your property. I think we have a slide in here about KV Core. That's where this screen grab came from. And so if you don't have KV Core already, we have that here at Solid Source, lead capture website, smart CRM system, all of that in one. It's normally a very expensive system if you go straight there, but it's month to month and only $75 here at Solid Source. So contact me after if you're interested in that. It's a way for you to have a great online presence for a very, very good price. So that's a two-step Facebook marketing. If you want to do the easy button, you can go to HomeSnap, and they'll actually pull in your listings. If you sign up, which you have a free pro account that comes with your FMLS subscription, it will pull in your listings and it will populate. This is what your listing will look like if you advertise it through there. So you can see on the far right side how it's Instagram, Google, Facebook, and Waze. You can choose one. You can choose all of those. You can pick your amount that you want to spend. So there'll just be a slider button. I think the lowest one is like $3 per day for Facebook. And so, for very inexpensive, you can start marketing that property, and that's the easy button. The difference here between this and what we just looked at with Facebook, the Facebook ad drives directly back to your website. This one, when they click, it drives to the HomeSnap website. So you do less work here to get it marketed, but on the other one, you get more reward. And really, once you kind of break down that last system that we looked at on Facebook, it's not that much more time when after probably your first one or second one that you do. So I'd recommend getting in the habit of the other one. But if you're in a pinch or something and you want to get it marketed out, you can use this as the easy button, and that's just homesnap.com. To get there, if you've never set up an account, it'll say sign up as an agent, put in your MLS, your ID for the MLS, and then it's going to create an account. And it's no charge because you're a member of the MLS. So that's that piece. And then if you like print media, then you have an ExpressDocs account already with being part of Solid Source. So you'll be able to go in and create flyers, postcards. There's multiple systems that will pull in your MLS listing and create those postcards. The good thing about this one is once you get all of your profile set up in ExpressDocs, it will email you and say, hey, we see you have a new listing. You set up to have the closest 30 neighbors, 100 neighbors, you preset this amount. Do you want to send this postcard out? And it will say just listed or whatever the status of the property is. And all you have to do is say approve, and then it blasts out those postcards to the neighbors. So you can preset that up so that when you do have a listing, it just automatically notifies you. I think that's pretty nice because, again, it's more of the easy button. You're flying through that transaction and trying to help that seller, and now you just push the button if postcards are in your marketing realm of what you want to do. Okay, so we've done some marketing. Let's talk a little bit about the showings, right? The showings that happen. You can see a lot of stuff on this screen right here, and we do recommend that these be on the table near a door or kitchen. And again, this is your brand. When people come through the door, you want them to know that this is how you'll set up their property when you come sell their property, right? Bottled waters, these are all, great examples. Candy bowl with mints, your business cards, the flyers, list reports data, which we're about to look at, which is another easy button. And then buyer and seller guides that we have available right on Vision for you to download. You can market yourself with those and have them right there for the buyers who are coming in or the potential sellers that are coming in, just to pick up and know a little bit about what's happening in the marketplace, right? And those are already done for you. You don't even have to put one pen to paper or one keyboard, note on there. You can just click print and then just have it right there at the door or your area wherever you have this set up. So the list reports you see right there in the middle, that's what we're suggesting on here. You can use the flyers from Express Docs. You can have another service that you prefer or you create on your own and have those. But list reports, we've reviewed this in a prior sales meeting, is extremely easy for you to set up. Again, it brings in your listing. All you have to do is put the MLS number, and then it creates things like this. In a matter of minutes, it will say, what's that MLS number? You hit enter, and now you'll have what they call a marketing kit. And that marketing kit has things just like this and more. But then you can print these. You can send these out to your database or your clients. Hey, got a great new listing. Here's all of the info. And so they'll have a flyer about the schools, the convenient, things that are located near that property, the neighborhood eats. That's my favorite one out of this group here. And so you can have all of these, just email it to your clients, print it out, have it at the home, use this however you want. But again, it's an easy button for you to market that property. And that seller's going to be like, wow, my agent put this out at the house, right? And if they have another friend who has maybe is selling their property and they go over there, they're going to say, well, my agent put this out and they put waters out and my agent had professional photography and all these great things, right? And so you just really want to make sure that you're plugged into these, because this can make or break a referral, right? And you want to be referred with high confidence, not just, oh, who sold your property? And then, they give you their name and there's not much enthusiasm. So that's where we definitely recommend that.
Excuse me, Demo. That site was List Reports?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listreports.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And there are videos. I think we did a sales meeting video we did and recorded it. And so that's on YouTube as well. On our YouTube channel, if you need help, and that website is solidsourcechannel.com. And I'll put that in the notes too. So a lot of great information there where we review. And
List Reports is a Solid Source partner?
No, List Reports is a third party service. They do this at no charge for agents. Where they make their money is on the mortgage side. So if a mortgage lender wants to sign up, they'll make their money through that. But for agents, there's no cost. All right. So something that we do have on Vision for you are buyer and seller guides. They're beautiful. They're about 30 or so pages each, roughly. They're updated 4 times per year. Buyer guide, seller guide. The front page, the back page, you can download these and put your picture and your contact information. You can download and print them as is and put your card either in the front cover or paper clip to the front or whatever you want to do, whatever level you want to take it to. But these are available for you right on Vision. They're under the buyer seller guide part, under the marketing side. And so highly recommend these. You can see on the buyer side has a really nice graphic path to home ownership. So really cool for buyers to look at and say, oh, that's so pretty. And this is the path to, home ownership. But it provides a lot of really good information. And so, 30 or so pages. It is national. So it doesn't just talk about the Atlanta market. You should know that before you hand it to somebody. But other than that, the information in there is fantastic. Talks about mortgage rates, talks about, the market for sellers and winning a sale and that type of content. And they're different. It's not just like slapping a cover on the seller guide and calling it a seller's guide. The content really is meant for buyers and meant for sellers. So these are some other things that you can have at the property. You can use these to promote your business or have them, in your car and you meet a client and now you're handing these out. So again, at the property, another great thing that we've seen is at the property having, these are all picture frames, so you don't see the little back part of it. But these are picture frames, about $1 per frame, at Dollar Tree, places like that. And then you just printing out a little card on the inside, because how many times have you walked into a property and you either read something on the description and you got to the property and you'd forgotten about it, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought that place had whatever. And if something had kind of been attached in that property somewhere, or sitting on the table, or attached to the wall, maybe not the wall if it's, you're reselling that property, but somewhere in there that says, hey, look up, hey, check out go through this door, because through this door really is a huge walk-in closet, or whatever the case is. But you're bringing this to the table again for your sellers, right? So you're really highlighting the features, the heated tile floors. If somebody can see that, it's probably just from the control on the wall, and most agents will not. Most people will not just see that dial and know that that's a heated floor. So that's an example. Under cabinet lighting, you'd like to think that maybe the seller or you got over there and turned on all the lights. Maybe you forgot one, maybe they didn't, maybe they're out of town, and so now you're throwing in there under cabinet lights, right here, just so they're like, oh, there's the switch, and boom, they're on. So anything that you have. We have an in-office example of a Bluetooth speaker in the bathroom fan. How many people would know that's there without having a sign, right? And having something like that there. In-ground sprinkler systems. I mean, possibilities are endless, right? For what you can use this type of thing for, but super easy to do, very, very low cost, but very effective, right? And then again, you being the person that's marketing that property, you're going to show, it shows a lot about you, being the professional, not only to the seller, but the people that come in that property. So this is one of my favorite slides in this class, is just, some things above and beyond that maybe a seller wouldn't expect. But you get all of this information on that walkthrough we were talking about, right? Where the seller's walking you through and you're making your notes. You're like, oh, that's cool. Let me write that down. And when I go to market this property, I got to make sure that I highlight this feature. And so, of course, it's in your description. But how many people read the description and then come to the house and they see something at the house and they completely forget the description? They're like, oh, look at the cabinets. Oh, look at the backyard or whatever. And so this is just highlighting those features. So that's where that piece comes in. The next thing is setting up showing time, just being familiar with showing time, not only on the desktop, but on the app. The app gives you a lot of things that you can do. It's easier on the desktop version, laptop version, whatever you want to call it, just to go in there and set it up, because you probably already know this, but I do want to say it just for those people who haven't done maybe a listing before, is that your sellers can approve the showing if you want to, if they want to, or something like that. You can be the person that gets the notification, and then you reach out to your client, right? Hey, we have a request for a showing at 3 o'clock. You can both get it, and only you can approve it. You can set up a lot of different ways for this to work, but just know that it is there. And the other important thing is that you can go in there and block off a schedule. So every Friday afternoon, the client can't take showings between 5 and 8 p.m. So you go block it off where it can even be requested. So you don't have to then tell that agent, hey, I know you requested it and you got all your clients excited, but you can't go see it. So you want to set this up obviously at the beginning, right, of the listing, but that's going to help you get to that point of again being the professional and being the person, but you're talking to your seller, as part of the conversation, right? Hey, do you want to also approve showings, or do you just want me to? We both get it. You may not even bring it up. You may just say, hey, this is how it works. And if they say, oh, I want to approve it, okay, great. Well, I have a way for us to do that. And so you can control the conversation, or they can do it too through the showing time app. You can do a lot also with the lockbox itself inside of the Supra account. You can lock it out like certain times and have a time frame on that too. You can also see who keyed in and out of the property, right? So you can do all of that right there from that Supra app. And I forgot to mention this about showing time. So on showing time, you can see there's a lot of status down here, canceled, showed it. It automatically sends, if you didn't know this part, if you've ever shown property, you've probably seen it. If you've never listed a property, you may not know where it came from, but you show a property and it says, feedback request, how did you like it? And there's a preset message, right? 1 through 5, rank this and this, but you can actually go in and change all of those if you want to. If you want something specific about that property, you can change the question to be about that, or maybe you just don't like the questions in general, you could change those. But that's how you do it if you're a listing agent. And then if you're mostly working with buyers, that's where that's coming from. It's an automated thing. It knows the appointment was ending, and it just sends out that email, right? Automated. So it's good though, because if agents do fill it out, now you can take that report and give it to your sellers. And it's a little easier when another agent or a client of that agent says, is price too high, something needs to be repaired, whatever. Now you're taking that, maybe you told that client that. Now you can take actual data from somebody who's shown the property or seen the property and say, this is what they're saying about the property. Let's talk, right? Let's do something about this. So that's showing time. We went through the lockbox part. And then we kind of have some additional topics as we approach our 12:30 time slot today. We're going to talk in this section just about some best practices, kind of wrap up some loose ends from all that we went over today. And so this is, make sure your documents are visible, your property disclosure, CAD feature sheet, utility sheet. You can do this two ways. When you go into the MLS and set it up, you can have the documents loaded, so that when an agent wants to, wants to access those, all they have to do is click and download, or you can be the gatekeeper. It's up to you, right? They can say, hey, can you send me the property disclosures, all this stuff? It's up to you. The mindsets behind those are, I don't want to be bothered about those. Here they are. Or I want to know who's very interested in the property, so I want to be the person that sends it. Kind of probably depends on how many showings you're having, and do you want to be involved in each one of those? So I mean, those are optional for you. And I'm sure you'll have some best practices on what's happening today and what's the better way to actually do that. And actually, I do want to ask that: is there one or the other that someone that's doing some listings today that finds there's no chance you can keep up with all the people asking for the disclosures, or do you have a preference? Anyone want to answer that question for us?
It's just easier to put them in the MLS system. Mm-hmm. Have them done.
Okay. Anybody like to be the person that sends them and not have them posted?
I personally think that if there's something that's kind of difficult for the seller to explain, it's better not to put it in, because then you can lose people thinking that there is some major problem just because it was complicated disclosure. So I think it depends on the house.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think it's much easier to have it in there because most people just want to see everything's good.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyone else before we go to the next topic? Probably following one of two of those camps. So the other item here: check Zillow, Realtor, Redfin to make sure that the syndication happened accurately, right? So typically it happens fairly quickly to hit all of those. But your client, that's, your client, their neighbors, their friends, whatever, that's probably one of the places or the first place they're going to go check it out. And so you want that to be accurate as soon as possible. So once you put it in MLS and once it's listed as active or, in the coming soon status, I guess not so much that one, but active, then you want to go over to these third-party sites. And really the best way to do it is just Google the address, right? Search for the address and see what all pops up, and just click through, the top 4 or 5, which is going to be, these 3 will be at the top, and just make sure that the information looks right, that didn't reformat in a weird way, and that the pictures came across. We've seen some cross syndication errors, I guess, through Zillow, maybe from like a previous listing. It pulled the old photos in, and now your photos are jumbled up with the old photos that maybe didn't look good. And so you can log into Zillow and uncheck, or at least you could do this, uncheck the syndication with the FMLS and reorder the pictures and reorganize and have even a different description. Probably wouldn't recommend that unless you had to do it because it just was causing errors for your pictures that you took and was like bringing in those old pictures. So, but just know that, it's not always perfect, and that it doesn't always just copy over directly from the MLS to those systems. Just checking that out, right? Just making sure it looks good. And if you have any questions about that or need some help, call us at the office. We'll jump in and see what we can, see on our end and help too. We don't have any special access in those systems, but we can at least maybe talk through it.
So the next one is, shoe covers, leaf blowers, and a vacuum, right? Like, what are some things that are probably good to keep in your car with you? If it's the fall time and you're listing a property and maybe the sellers aren't there, or maybe there's one of the sellers maybe just physically can't do some of these things. Blowing off the property before an open house, right? Again, it's your brand, it's your product, it's what you're selling for that seller. Shoe covers if it's brand new carpet, or just an immaculate home or something like that, providing those at the front. And then held vacuum or something like that if it's again another property that's maybe vacant or something that you're doing for your clients. Those are just brief examples. There's way more than that, but just using thinking a bit again about, hey, if someone's showing this property and I want it to show as best possible, what are some small things that I can do to help this? Music channels on the TV when they come in, the fireplace lit if it's cold, music on the speakers, ceiling fans, window blinds, checking out everything and just making sure that they're clean as possible, right? And a lot of that does fall back on the seller, but also we want to point it out. Sometimes, how sometimes when you're in a place, sometimes you don't, and you live in that place, maybe you don't see exactly everything the way someone would if they walked in and had never seen that place before. And that's what we're doing. We're going into their place. Maybe we have never seen it before and we see things that they don't. If we don't bring it up, we'll talk about that on the next slide. Then we're doing them a disservice. Captions on the MLS photos, and these two tie in together is can the buyer see, that entire home from that listing and kind of know that property without saying like, well, did that room attach to that room? And where does that view go into? We've all seen captions that are written really well, right? This is the view from the kitchen towards the master bedroom, towards the, lanai, towards whatever. And then the next picture is that, and it kind of feeds together. And you're like, whoa, I really, aside from doing one of those 3D walkthroughs, which are really cool, that's kind of the way to get to that point. So, it's an extra step. It's a little bit more time for you, but would it help a buyer come to the property that otherwise wouldn't? Or does it just, again, solidify you as the professional? I always like to read those captions, and I may be the only one, but I think it's worth it. And then being upfront with the seller. If there's something that needs to be removed, like from the front of the home or inside the home that just will not show really well on photos, probably the number one thing, and that's in parentheses here, is items on the kitchen counter. They may have, 10 things, and the kitchen counter may be huge, but you have to let them know or show them, right? Show them pictures that you've had previously or other listings and say, look at this really nice home, a couple miles down the street from you, and look at the kitchen countertop. It looks really cluttered, right? But it only has 7 things on it or 5 things on it, and just showing them what you're there to do and help that. Can you please, just only have the coffee maker up there or whatever, right? That was always my suggestion, unless I just got pushback that everything was bolted down. It was like, listen, we need to do this, even if it's just for pictures and everything else goes back up there right after pictures. We need to have these pictures be as beautiful as possible and as clutter-free. Pictures shrink things, and if it looks like there's 5 things on the countertop, now it's going to look like there's 100. Let's just get it done right from the beginning, so we don't have to explain it to people. So goal there, being proactive. Open line of communication with the sellers. First thing here, to be unclear is unkind. And that's what we talked about earlier on that last slide, is just relaying to your client, right? What's happening in the marketplace, what's happening with their home. What are you going to bring to the table? What are you going to do for them in the marketing of the property? And so just being clear on that, having your marketing plan ready. We talked a lot about kind of that situation today. The listing, the coming soon, the open house, are you going to do those? If so, why? If you're going to use them, then obviously tell the seller, this is what I do and this is what I will do for your property, is have an open house because I want to save you time. You have a 4-hour window on Saturday or whatever, then use it, right? And if you're not going to use it, obviously you wouldn't bring it up as a benefit. All feedback from the open house, from showings, whatever it is, we hit on that with showing time. Being honest. It can be, agents can be brutal in their feedback, but sometimes that's the best feedback, right? And so you have to take that and tell your sellers, some of that feedback, right? Now you have to know your seller a little bit. If they're, going to get their feelings hurt and say, let's don't even sell this property. You might have to reformulate how you say it, but you at least have to relay the message, the information, over to those sellers, because that's what people are seeing in the marketplace, especially if you're hearing it more than once, from buyers. Views on social media, that we talked about that, how to get that over to your clients and let them see that. And then the feedback and any market changes. We all know that markets don't just continue in a straight line or even just a slightly upward line. They can go all over the place. And so you may have a time where you list a property and something 10 days, 30 days from there, if it's still in the market has changed and it's either, increased or decreased for the seller. And so you may have a chance or a time that you need to adjust and make some recommendations for that. So that's where the home adjustments and the prices will come to. So we're kind of winding down here, and I want to show you some tools and systems that we have for you that you'll be able to download and use if you want to. One of which is a contract kickoff email, and you can see a copy of and it's actually not an email, it is a Word document that you can put in an email and send to your clients, or you can print and give it to them. But essentially, it's going to be, congratulations, their name there, and you'll see a space on that Word document to type it in. Below are important deadlines and dates for their contracts. Now, this is, under contract kickoff. So you'll fill in the information. You'll put your information at the bottom. You'll send them an email, and you've already sent them a copy of the contract, and so they have that. But this is just kind of a recap of the important dates. The great thing about this is it's dual use. It's good for them to be able to take a look at and see a snapshot, but it's also good for you because now you have a snapshot. Now you can keep that in your computer. You go in your calendar. Okay, earnest money due on January 17th. So I'm going to put me a reminder on January 16th to make sure that happened. And then finance and appraisal is due January 25th. I'm going to go in my calendar and put on the 23rd so that I have a couple days fudge room there to say, hey, we got to really pick it up. We didn't do X, Y, or Z. And so this is a way for you to keep track of what's happening. Your clients keep track of what's happening. They have it. And then you're able to, again, be that professional. The net to seller sheet we're going to look at here in a second, and then I'll show you one checklist, and then again your calendar equals you being the professional. This article I thought was pretty interesting. It's how to spot a bad agent. So this is a consumer article, right? Like not for agents to really use, but for clients. And the thing it says is how to spot a bad agent. Look out for these signs. If you find yourself waiting hours or days for your agent to return your calls, texts, or emails, I know no one here does that, but I'm just telling you, obviously it exists in the marketplace because there's an article about it. And so at some point it's happened, right? And then let's look at that one, style that doesn't mesh well with yours. So we talked about the disc profile earlier, right? That could be a big reason why that's a topic on this article, is because you're a certain personality, the seller's a certain personality. But again, knowing how those different personality styles interact. And that's what that report shows you when you take that personality test, that disc profile. That's going to answer that piece for you, right? And then this last one I thought was pretty interesting. If the agent tends to sugarcoat the situations. So we talked about that feedback, right? The buyer says, this place is horrible. Like the bedrooms are too tiny and there's the backyard slopes. And then you go to your client and you say, yeah, they just didn't like it. That's really sugarcoating, right? It's not telling them the feedback, it's sugarcoating it. It's not being honest and proactive with it. So you can still be nice and not technically sugarcoat, the information to where they don't hear really, what's happening there. So being responsive, being professional, and being honest is exactly what this article is hitting on. And we've kind of chatted about that. So personality style, we talked about that earlier with the disc profile. And so again, knowing yours, here's a little quick rundown, just a Cliff Notes version. I really want you to do it just so you see yours if you haven't before. But high D tend to be direct, driven, and decisive. High I tends to be influential, social, optimistic, outgoing. High S, steady, stable, sympathetic, cooperative. And C, compliant, conscientious, concerned, cautious, and correct. So we talked in that scenario earlier about a D, someone in the husband and wife being a D and someone being a C. You can see the difference, between how those two people are, right? One is very concerned, very cautious and correct. The other one is direct, driven, and decisive. Give me the details. The other one, I need to know all the details. Or I'm sorry, D, don't give me the details. And C, give me the details, right? So you knowing that and just kind of wrapping your mind around that will really help. And it's cool because once you know these things, you can meet people and pretty quickly figure out like, oh, this person falls more in this. And you can be a couple of these different styles, but typically you're maybe one or two, not all four, even across the board. That the way they describe it is pretty rare for that. But anyway, just knowing that I think is really great. And we're all real estate agents. So I think it's good because we come across a lot of different people. And so that's the website. It's TonyRobbins.com/DISC for the DISC profile. So if you go there, there's a free DISC profile, and that's where I took mine. They were offering it free, at least as of last week. So hopefully that didn't change anything. But you do have to put some information in. So we're not we're not partnering with them or anything like that. It's just a place that you can go if you want to and get that done. All right, listing dialogue options. Has anyone in here gone to YouTube and said, listing presentation, listing dialogue, anything like that, and search for it? I know when I was a new agent, I probably spent way too much time watching these type of videos, and some of them are similar themed, but a lot of them have their own way of doing it, which really leads to you focusing on the seller, right, and being for them. It kind of drives back to all of what we talked about earlier. Is you are the guide, you are the person who's helping them, and the conversation can be a lot of different things, and that's why it's really hard. When an agent says, what do I need to do to be successful as a listing agent? It's not, hey, here's this 1 30-minute video and you will be successful for the rest of your life in listing, right? It's really the whole thing. Talking to sellers, talking to people, not even just sellers, right? Just talking about real estate. Hey, what did you see what's going on in the market? Most of the time, we've all been to parties and barbecues and events and family things where real estate a lot of times comes up. You'll either hear it, two people talking about it, or somebody knows you're in the business and says, how's the real estate business? At some point, during probably most, events, something about real estate or close to real estate or a time that you could bring up real estate, might come into that opportunity for you. And so again, that's a dialogue option for you to jump in and educate, right? Provide information. There's always a good time to talk about real estate, buying, selling, investing, any of those, right? It's either a great time for buyers, a great time for sellers, a good time for both, a good time for investing or whatever. Interest rates are projected to go up to 4%. I saw an article yesterday by the end of this year. Great time to talk to your buyers, right? Hey, if you're thinking about it, this is what I saw. I wish I had that article. I would give it to you today. I'm sure it's available on Google, but interest rates going up, send that to them. Hey, I know you were thinking about it either this spring or the end of the year. Just want to let you know what's happening, right? Or what they're projecting that may be happening out there. Or for your sellers, right? Hey, we're at an all-time high. Who knows if it's going to continue or not? 11% appreciation last year. They're projecting, I think it was like 4% or just a normal year, this year. And so you can send your sellers that, right? We're kind of probably at an all-time high if they're thinking about selling. Whatever it is, whatever the dialogue is, we've already talked about ways to who to talk to, how to talk to them, right? Like ways you can help them. And then, focusing on real estate. It's always a conversation, and people love to talk about real estate, especially when they're not real estate agents, right? Like, oh, I saw this property and, it was amazing. And the cool thing is when you're listening or they're your friend and you can say, I know that property. Like I've walked that property. It has these things going on or whatever, right? So just a way for you to continuously think about it. And, the phrase there is what you focus on expands, right? And so you focusing on real estate and just always having your head wrapped around what's going on in real estate, knowing some information, knowing information about the community or the neighborhood or the restaurants that are coming in. There's always something to talk to clients about. And we always want them thinking about you when that comes to time to do it. This is kind of a little bit of a side note, but I want you to know this. So only 1% we saw on that stat earlier are selling to iBuyers. But really what we've got here is if you're thinking about selling to iBuyers, you stay in the deal as the agent. Don't just say, sure, go sell to Open Door and I'm out of there. Because look at this. Open Door, earn 1% on top of the seller paid commission. So essentially, you can earn 1% without the seller paying anything, staying in the process through Open Door. So the other sites, OfferPad, I don't think I was able to grab whatever theirs is either. It's just not available on the website, or you have to get in a contract with them. I'm not sure. Obviously, Zillow is not buying homes currently, so you don't even have that to be involved in. But don't just write it off if they say I'm selling to Open Door. Say, well, I can actually assist you with that, right? And go through that process, because really it may come back where they get that offer and you review it with them and say, well, this is a good offer from the top, but actually look at this. They're going to require this level of repairs, or they may get halfway through, right? And there's an issue. So stay involved is the key there. Don't just give up on that transaction. All right, y'all. Well, if y'all have anything, feel free to reach out to us. We're so excited you were here today.